The penultimate theme, which is looking at Columkill or Columba, ambivalence and the journey from violence to peacemaker. Now, between 1618 and 1648, Europe was experiencing the horrors of the 30 Years' War, which claimed thousands upon thousands of lives. This was 30 years of religious wars, which came out of the Reformations and counter-Reformations. Of course, land, territory, and power politics were part of it, but it was also Protestant and Catholic slaughtering each other in the name of religion. In 1633, Jacques Callot created and published prints showing soldiers pillaging and massacring innocent civilians, using religion to justify murder and torture. And one unforgettable image or print is of numerous dead hanging by the neck from tree branches, while nearby clerics absolved the murderous soldiers in a sacred religious ceremony. We still hold religious ceremonies to glorify and justify those who killed others, and many of themselves killed in bloody wars. And even in a more secular era, we may still marry religion and war, faith and killing. As in Callot's prints, the dead are innocent civilians. They always are. And we don't create religious ceremonies to remember them. Kirill, the leader of the Russian Orthodox Church, has fully backed Putin's war on Ukraine, invoking religion and painting it as a battle against evil and a righteous cause. Putin has quoted scripture, especially John's Gospel. Greater love has no man than to lay down his life for his friends. We are familiar with that quote from war memorials and religious services of remembrance. Netanyahu has also gone to the Bible, quoting Ecclesiastes, a time for peace and a time for war. And of course, this is the time for war. And he's also quoted those texts where it appears that God commands the slaughter of the Amalekites, women and children and livestock. And given what is happening in Gaza, the text is being carried out to the last dot, and quite literally. The two iconic historic documents in Ireland are the 1912 Ulster Covenant and the 1916 Easter Proclamation, each in a number of ways mirroring each other. And the greatest mirror image in Covenant and Proclamation is the invocation of God, the blessing of God on arms and violence, and the shared confidence that God is on their side and will deliver them from the evils they face. I am not sure that even in today's secular Ireland, we are ready to tear up these documents, or at least delete the God bits. A mile away from where I live in Belfast, for God and Ulster is still painted large on a wall. Religion and violence seem difficult to separate. Columkill, or let's call him Columkill the Younger, was born into royal power and a culture of religious violence. His mother Ethna belonged to the royal Leinster family, and his father Phelim was the great-grandson of the famous Niall of the Nine Hostages from the Northern O'Neill dynasty. Niall had come to power in the 4th century after his capture of the northern capital, Iwan Macha, today's Navan Fort near Armagh. Columkill's grandmother was the daughter of a king, the sister of a military commander, Fergus Moore, who led the conquest of Argyll at the end of the 5th century. Columkill had quite a lineage. He had royal blood in his veins from both sides of his family, and a military tradition that goes with it. He is born into political power. That is his heritage, his culture, even his destiny. And all of this has shaped Columkill the Younger, and even though his life takes a radical step into the life of a monk and the church, he was always a politician who knew how to work power to his advantage. God might take the man out of the militarized culture, but even God couldn't quite take the militarized culture out of the man. Columkill might have said that God did change him, but it took a long time. Maybe we all have to say, with that caption on the poster of a chrysalis, a caption which says, "Be patient. God hasn't finished with me yet." Columkill the Younger struggles with violence and power and ambivalence. As with many Celtic boys, he is fostered, which is the earliest form of his education. He was born in 521 CE at Garton in County Donegal. His foster parent was a priest, which would suggest that his family intended him for the church. Later, he was trained by Gemmin, a bard and a poet. And one story suggests that Columkill was offered kingship. He was eligible to become a king, but he seems to have declined that. Whatever royal power he might have had, it was abandoned to God. He had a strong sense of vocation, but he was ever the politician, engaging the power politics of his day for both good and ill. He was sent to Moville, near modern-day Newtownards, to the great seminary or school or university, founded there by Finian in 540 CE. He got a solid biblical grounding from Finian, and he studied classics, philosophy, literature, science as understood at the time, and Latin. He spoke and wrote in both Latin and Irish, and appears to have been quite a scholar. His education and formation were far from finished. He moved to one of the great Irish monastic schools at Clonard in Meath, founded by another Finian. Clonard had up to 3,000 students, and Columkill was one of the 12 Apostles of Ireland, as they were known, the greatest of Celtic monastic founders. They included Kieran of Clonmacnoise, Brendan the Voyager, Brendan of Birr, Moby of Glasnevin, Kenneth of Achabou, and Comgall of Bangor. They didn't come any bigger than that. Clonard was the great University of Ireland. There Columkill was ordained priest, and he went to Glasnevin. After a short time, he returned to Ulster and founded his first monastery at the place of the Oaks, Derry. You might think this makes him an eco-warrior, but he was so fond of oaks that he would not allow any oaks to be cut down. If they fell through decay, they were either used to light a fire on the arrival of strangers, or they were given to the neighbouring poor. Columkill founded monasteries at Durrow and Kells, but for Columkill there was always something very special about Derry. When he was dying on Iona and making his will, the story goes that he said, "My soul to Derry." A poem has been attributed to him, though probably later put into his mouth by a much later poet, but it is, I suppose, in the spirit of Columkill. We're all the tribute of Scotia mine, from its midland to its borders. I would give all for one little cell in my beautiful Derry, for its peace and for its purity, for the white angels that go in crowds from one end to the other. I love my beautiful Derry, for its quietness and its purity, for heaven's angels that come and go under every leaf of the oaks. I love my beautiful Derry. If he wrote that poem, and he was trained as a poet, we might well imagine him sitting on the other side of the island of Iona, looking across the North Channel towards Derry, miserable and homesick. But here there is a backstory. Columkill, when at Moville, carried out a bit of underhand work. Finian brought back from Rome a beautiful copy of the Book of Psalms. Columkill thought he would like a copy of it, but Finian would never agree to that. And so Columkill, after the last office was over, would slip in the dead of night into the church and begin to copy the Psalms. But he was caught on, as they say, and there was an almighty row. Finian claimed the copy as his. Columkill appealed to the High King. He was in the royal know, after all. And Finian set off for Tara to make his case. the case was presented, and the High King Dermot gave his famous judgment. To every cow her calf, to every book its transcript. Therefore the copy you made, O Columkill, belongs to Finian. Dermot's judgment appears to be the first law of copyright. Did the royal Columkill accept that judgment? No way. He threatened Finian with violence, and tribal politics came into play. The Northern O'Neill raised against High King Dermot. Ulster was saying a violent no, and a battle ensued. Columkill prayed to Christ, his druid, as on his side. Finian prayed for victory for Dermot, and not for the first or last time prayer for military victory, assuming God on our side was used, or we might say misused, in a war and violent situation. The Battle of Culdrevny near Sligo was a disaster for Columkill. His side won, but 3,000 lives were lost, all over a book of Psalms. The consequences were far-reaching. A synod was called at Teltown and Meath, and Columkill was accused of causing the death of 3,000 people. Columkill hadn't bothered to turn up at the synod, and in his absence they excommunicated him. Columkill then decided he'd better show up. And when he arrived, Brendan of Birr rose, bowed, and kissed him. A remarkable moment. Synod was not happy, but Brendan pleaded Columkill's cause, a merciful Brendan, who must have made a good cause or a good case. The Synod revoked the excommunication. Even at that, Columkill stopped short of any kind of penitence. He blamed Dermot's judgment and told the Synod that it wasn't his fault. He played the victim rather than accept any responsibility. But the Synod was not going to allow him to walk away as if nothing had happened. He was commanded to convert to Christianity as many as had lost their lives at Culdrevny. So Columkill left Teltown, ill at ease with himself. In remorse, he turned to a soul friend, Mullasey, who advised him to accept the Synod's verdict. He did, and voluntarily went into exile from Ireland. At 42, he left his beloved Derry in 563 with the intention of never returning. And on the 12th of May, 563, Columkill arrived on the island of Iona. Even then, he couldn't keep his nose out of politics and power struggles. He became involved in a conflict of liberation involving the Dalriada Scots and the Pictish King Brude to give Dalriada its independence in Western Scotland. Yet again, the politics and the religion got mixed up, because in siding with Dalriada in their liberation struggle, he decided that these non-Christian Picts needed conversion. And a year later, he arrived at Brude's headquarters at Inverness on a political visit that was also evangelistic. He did open up the Highlands and Islands to Christianity. His converts were well above 3,000. Under Columkill and his successors, Iona became the great centre of mission and evangelisation for much of Scotland and Northumbria. From Culdrevny and Teltown to Iona was more than a physical journey for Columkill. It was a huge inner journey of slow transformation. The warring politician never ceased to be the politician. Perhaps he put that to good use, as we might see later. But he became something more. He became more a prophetic peacemaker, as well as an evangelist and an educator. Well, Loretto might put us into rooms, and there are a couple of questions that might guide our discussion. Why is it difficult in history to keep religion and violence and war apart? Is it possible to separate them? And Columkill the Younger is an ambivalent person in relation to his faith and violence. He perhaps was born with both. And how much are we ambivalent? And how much is our moral ambivalence shaped by our beginnings? Okay, take 20 minutes and enjoy a conversation with each other. Well done, well done. Anyway, we want to look at the Drumcat Convention in the second part of the evening. When Columkill arrived in Iona, Conall was the king of Scottish Dalriada, and Scottish Dalriada was an Irish dependency. Now, 9 years after Columkill had arrived in Iona, Conall died and the way was open for independence. Owen was in line to the throne, but Columkill, who's now Columkill the Elder, had other ideas. Claiming that he was told in a dream, Columkill crowned but Owen's younger brother, Aidan. And not only did he crown Aidan king, he consecrated him in a religious ceremony. He summoned Aidan to Iona for a coronation and a consecration. And that was new. And the consecration on Iona was a powerful political act. Columkill apparently delivered a thundering charge, sounding like a powerful theocrat. Aidan was anointed, but the power behind the throne was Columkill. The monk was still very much the politician. The Declaration of Independence for Scottish Dalriada. This had sent a message, a very clear message to Brood in Inverness, that Aidan's consecration was a political statement, a declaration of independence for Scottish Dalriada. And this happened in 574 CE. And we wonder if at this stage Columkill knew of a planned convention for 575 CE to be held at Drumcat, which is near modern Limavady. Or did Columkill's action precipitate the convention? Well, in 575, he returned to Ireland and he attended the National Assembly of Irish Kings and Clergy. And to this great occasion of church and state, and there was no separation of powers at this stage, here came Columkill, a return from exile, a coming home, and he brought Aidan with him. Whatever else was on the agenda, home rule for Scottish Dalriada was. A signal to this end had been sent to Brood in Inverness, and now Columkill was intent on negotiating and achieving home rule from the Irish. Drumcat must have been quite an occasion. Columkill's friends turned up and joined him. I suppose it was a kind of Derry supporters club. But one poem speaks of Columkill's party consisting of 40 priests, 20 bishops, 50 deacons, and 30 students all singing psalms. He had the numbers, and they were noisy. On the way over from Iona, they ran into a storm and were almost shipwrecked. They arrived late, and with all Columkill's religious team, plus all of King Aidan's civil servants, their arrival at Drumcat must have been spectacular. If Columkill had left Ireland in disgrace and humiliation after the Battle of Culdrevney, he was making a triumphant return as a church dignitary, a leader and a peace negotiator. He also returned as guarantor for the King of Scottish Dalriada. The Irish king was so threatened by the arrival of Columkill that he threatened death on any assembly member who showed Columkill respect. Columkill arrived, and an Irish leader, Domhnall, welcomed him, kissed him, gave him a seat. Irish King Aid's authority was undermined. There was no doubt who was going to dominate this convention. Am I still hearing? Hello?
Yes, yes.
Okay, carry on. I'm getting all sorts of wonderful pictures up on my screen. I'll carry on. There were three key items on the convention agenda, and Columkill was the main player in all three. In all three, he negotiated accommodation, not without compromise, all of which is worthy of note in 6th or 21st century Ireland. Drumcat was a 6th century peace process. Columkill negotiated the release of Scanlan. Scanlan was the son of the King of Ossory and was being held prisoner by Aed, King of Irish Dalriada. Aed had been refusing to release Scanlan, keeping him in a small hut in chains with very little food and drink. There were 50 guards around the hut. Scanlan was being unjustly imprisoned and harshly treated. Columkill demanded release, but Aed still refused. The story is unclear, but one story has it that Scanlan was eventually released. The point of the story is one of justice. Aed's action is unjust, but Columkill is prepared to confront the king with the moral demands of justice. The dynamics of political power are present for Columkill, and he is also driven by the moral commitments of his faith and his spirituality. Columkill negotiated the preservation of the bards. The bards were the successors of the Druids. This was an old institution in Celtic society. They were a professional class, highly qualified in skill and wisdom. They were the poets, storytellers, eulogists, genealogists, historians, and satirists. They were feared for that last skill, often speaking truth to power, and they could demolish a king's reputation, and perhaps deservedly so. But their role could also be abused. They could charge large fees, and they had a reputation of being a cauldron of greed. Numbers had become large, and there had been 2 attempts to suppress the bards. Apart from the abuses, the bards as satirists were getting too close to reality for the establishment. Columkill himself had trained as a bard, and he had some sympathy with them. At the convention, he argued that if you threw them out, Ireland would be deprived of a wealth of folklore, and it would be lost forever. He negotiated a compromise. The numbers of bards were to be reduced, and their activity very carefully regulated. They were to work and be given means of support. When agreement was reached, it is said that 1,200 bards entered the convention and sang songs of praise to Columkill. The bards, a rich cultural heritage, and the role of satirists were preserved. The critical voice in society was retained. Those in power do not like criticism or critical thinkers. Power has a tendency to preserve itself. With the retention of the bards, Columkill won a victory for the freedom of speech, especially the speech of those who could expose corruption and hypocrisy and articulate an alternative arrangement of power and relationships. Columkill negotiated political relationships. This was the main issue on the Drumcat agenda. Aidan, the Scottish Dalriada king, was present. Ireland was the mother country. Dalriada was under obligation to pay taxes to Aed and Irish Dalriada. Adamnan, who wrote the life of Columkill, described the convention as a conference of kings. It was a gathering of those in power. And Scottish Dalriada was a province of Irish Dalriada, which meant having taxes and military obligations or support for any project the Irish king decided to pursue. Columkill had ensured Aidan's kingship, putting a strong person on the throne. And Drumcat was about negotiating independence or home rule for Scottish Dalriada. Columkill negotiated and reached a compromise. Scottish Dalriada was freed from all taxes to Aed, but was obliged to support any land war involving the king. There was no obligation to assist in any sea or maritime expedition. Aidan was now independent, and home rule was secured for the Irish colony. Brud, the Pictish king in Inverness, also recognised the independence of Scottish Dalriada. Aidan was free, and he took his freedom to mean expansion of his own kingdom, making a number of conquests, including the Isle of Man. One historian has claimed that Aidan's military might, together with Columkill's political sagacity, laid a foundation on which ultimately the kingdom of Scotland was built. Columkill came to the Drumcat Convention with considerable negotiation skills, and he found accommodation between kingdoms with potential for conflict. There were no absolute winners in 575, and in any conflict there never are in any meaningful peace process. Negotiation, compromise, and accommodation are the key words from the Drumcat Convention, and perhaps they remain key for any conflict transformation situation and peace process. Ireland then, Ireland now, Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Palestine, the entire Middle East region. It was a long road from Culdrevny to Drumcat. Columkill the Younger had morphed into Columkill the Elder, a lot wiser, an evangelist, educator, diplomat, and peace negotiator. This was Columkill, and he held these roles and characteristics together. Perhaps there always was an ambivalence about him, even contradictions. But in Columkill the Elder, there is wisdom and an integrity. On his journey from Culdrevny to Iona, he had changed, perhaps changed often, and change would continue after Drumcat. Change and transformation never end. On the 8th of June 597 CE, Columkill returned to his hut after the evening prayer vigil. It was approaching midnight. He gave his servant Diarmid a last message for the monks in Iona. These, O my children, are the last words I address to you. That you be at peace and have unfeigned charity among yourselves. It is said that he went to the church for one last time and there peacefully slept away. It was the 9th of June, 597 CE. Columkill belongs to both the Irish and the Scots, and he remains, I think, a significant person for both. Columkill or Columba is shared. Who knows what the political future is for Northern Ireland, Ireland, or Scotland? There is a future, there always is, and we make it. Politics and power will not go away, but there are also values, and in Columkill we share them. To our conflicting loyalties, our ancient hatreds, and our deep divisions, Columkill and the Celtic way still speak. And from Iona, we hear those key words: be at peace and have unfeigned charity among yourselves. Well, we can have an open discussion now and reflect on what we think Drumcat was about. Was it characterised by negotiation, compromise, and accommodation? And where are these key qualities needed today, and how might they work out? And then those reputed last words of Columkill: be at peace and unfeigned charity among yourselves. How would that look in practice, do you think?